Green Commissioner Pernowin once he arrives. Starting at 8:01 for our pre-commission meeting. Looking over our consent agenda. Any questions from that?
Are we giving away trees on Arbor Day? We are. Okay. Yes. That was just
No questions from consent, and then looking at old business, the final reading of ordinance 1178, the milestone inspections. I don't know if you had any questions about it. I think there was really any questions last time when we went through it, or the city attorney addressed it. Any other questions regarding it?
No.
Moving on to new business, number 13. We have a development order request, Bay Breeze Shores, Miller Enterprises Incorporated. Do you have any questions in regards to that one for Amanda?
Yeah, I do. This is the one, there were some questions about the lift station at one time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw Chris's response that it was okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it okay now?
Chris?
So it was always okay. The lift station on Cashel Mirror that this development is going to has adequate capacity. The lift station down the line, lift station 47, which is located at the foot of the bridge here, that's the station that will need upgrading in the future. It needs upgrades now, not because of the development, because of everything it pumps to. Everything on the east side, east of 77, north of 12th Street pumps to that lift station. So it is already in need of bigger pumps, a bigger panel, and possibly a larger force main from lift station 47 to lift station 1, which is just across the canal. But that is not on the developer to do. That is part of our master plan anyway to upgrade that station. So it's nothing to hold up this development as part of tying into Cashel Mirror lift station.
Additional questions?
Yeah, I noticed from the minutes from the planning board that was voted down.
Yeah.
What was the concerns that they had
Sorry, sir.
from the
Planning Commission?
Yes, ma'am.
Basically, it was because we had a room full of people, some of whom were from Cashel, some of whom were county residents on Grassy Point Road, who were concerned about all sorts of things, really. Just don't want it there, I think, but at the end of the day. There were concerns about traffic, there were concerns about how low the property was, but obviously when they come to develop it, when they go to the building department, they're obviously going to have to elevate according to what's required with floodplain management procedures. They're going to have to go up quite high, which is why they're going to not have any living on the lower. They're going to be townhomes where you can put a car underneath, but they can't have any storage or living accommodation on that floor because there'll be breakaway walls. And the traffic, that's a county road that they're going out onto. So the developer has spoken with the county. The county had issued them a permit, but then when all the people got angry about it, they rescinded the permit, but they have now, we have it in the packet, they have now said that they do intend to issue them a permit. If you approve the development order, they'll issue a permit, and I think they're going to make improvements to that roadway.
Right.
So I anticipate there being people come out, because, we don't, the Planning Commission doesn't often get a lot of people out angry about something. It was a bit like the Grease Pro thing. So I think they just had a few concerns, which I think, the developer has kind of like addressed all of them since.
My question would be that the HOA is suing the people that is suing the developer. So has that been resolved, or are they still under?
Yeah, initially what happened was, because they wanted to have an exit, ingress, egress, not a general one for regular cars, but just for the garbage trucks and for our emergency services. going on from that cul-de-sac on Cashomara. They were going to have a entrance there for our fire trucks and police and things, but they didn't, it wasn't wide enough. And so they bought some land from somebody who lived on Cashomara. The person on Cashomara sold these people a piece of their land. And the homeowners association said that it was illegal for that person to do that. And so that was what the issue was there. As soon as they realized that, as soon as they said that they were going to sue and everything, they didn't actually, the developer didn't find out about that until the planning commission meeting. They basically gave it back. It's no longer part of the project. So it's null and void. It's gone away.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the homeowners association still has beef with the person who did it,
Yeah.
but as far as this development goes, it's not connected in any way.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. And also kind of, I guess, an ethics question here. So I know we're not supposed to talk to the boards before a vote. I guess this would be for our attorney. But whenever I see in the minutes here that, like, let's say in this particular situation, it's voted down 5-2, are we as the commission allowed to ask why they voted a certain way after the vote has already been completed?
Hello? Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, so after the planning commission or any other advisory board votes, after the vote has already been completed, are we allowed to reach out to them and ask why they voted a certain way?
So, I mean, so you can't have prejudicial conversations.
Right.
And if you have a prejudicial conversation, you have to disclose it. It doesn't mean you can't have that conversation. You just have to disclose the conversation and the nature of that conversation publicly before you vote. So, assuming that you did have a conversation and you talked to a member of the board and asked them their question, you would simply have to disclose that conversation to the public at the beginning of the hearing for the approval of the development order. Now, the follow-up to that is someone opposed to your position after the vote could challenge your vote because of that action.
Right.
But that's a longer kind of conversation about when your vote is tainted versus not. But the purpose of the Jennings disclosure is to disclose any conversations that you had that could be prejudicial or would affect your vote.
Okay, so even though it's a different board, okay, that answers my question. I'll just
Yeah.
One of the things we've done in the past, and we can do it for this, is we have invited or asked someone from the planning board to come and speak during that time to give us, so we can ask questions to give us
Right.
insight on what the board was.
I think that might be a good. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
That time.
Yeah, and I would agree with the mayor that that's a good approach to getting your question answered without having any sort of kind of outside the hearing conversations.
Yeah, that's smart. I like that.
And I don't know if the attorney would know the answer to this question, but I remember, I think it was at a commission meeting, I talked about how a lot of times as a commission, our hands are tied on development orders because as long as they're abiding by all local, state, and federal things. And I brought this situation up, and Ms. Myers brought up that in this case is not totally true. We had a choice, and I don't know what that was all about. Would you know, Mr. Cole?
Well, I don't know what the context of the conversation you had with Ms. Myers. I can tell you that depending on the nature of your approval, the standard of review is different. So we have what we call quasi-judicial decisions and we have legislative decisions. For instance, like a comp plan amendment is a legislative decision where you have a lot more leeway to make a decision based on your determination as a council member or commission member, the rational basis that you may have. Now, when you're in, let's say a rezoning, you're tied to a certain set of factors that you have to consider. And as long as that application and applicant meets those factors, your hands are tied. So when you're exercising your land use powers, what you're approving matters a lot. Because that's where you have different abilities based on what the application is for.
So, if I understand it right, this development order still ties the development with, what's it called, cash?
No, sir.
It doesn't? It doesn't connect with it anymore?
Not for, they took that emergency
that
exit.
out?
Yes, sir.
So there's only gonna be one entrance
yes, sir.
on that one road?
Yes, sir.
Or entrance exit on that road?
Yeah.
And how many units is gonna be again?
It's gonna be
19
38.
Or 38?
Yeah, 19 duplexes, which is 38.
And ours requires if it's over 50, that's when we require more
Yes,
than
sir.
one. Okay. The other question I had that was brought up to me was, they said that they've seen bald eagles spawning over there. Is there any requirement for that if they're gonna develop the area?
I mean, if it were a comp plan amendment, if it were large scale, then they have to do an environmental assessment, but they've already got that high density land use on there.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
What are the plans for, it's kind of an L-shaped piece of property?
Yes, ma'am.
And I understand where the duplexes are going or the townhouses.
Yeah.
But how about that section that goes close to the water?
They're not asking for anything on that. They're only asking for approval for a development order for the townhomes. What they say is that I think in the future they're thinking about maybe asking for a single family home there, or maybe 2 single family homes, because obviously that's waterfront. But at this point in time, nothing. So what we really need to look at is what's before us, which is what has been applied for.
All right, that's a single-family home that's right in the middle of that L-shaped piece of property?
There's no single family home there now. There used to be one single family home there. That whole property used to have one house on there. That house was demolished. And so now it's just vacant property, but they don't want to develop on there at the moment. It's a bit like the Circle K project. You know how there was a larger parcel, like a rectangle, that had the land use amendment for, but then the Circle K project came to you with like a carve out on the corner, and then they also came with a development order for the stormwater ponds for the parent parcel, but there's nothing has been decided on that parent parcel. When there is something, a development order will come to you. If in the future they want to do anything on the rest of this parcel other than a single family home, if it's a single family home, they go to the building department to get their building permits. If they want to do a triplex, if it's a duplex, they can go to the building department. But if they wanted to do a triplex or anything more than that, they would need another development order.
Any other further questions?
Yeah,
I think she was talking about
if you don't mind, Mr. Cole, when Miss Myers is available, if she doesn't mind calling me, because I just want to know what she was trying to say in that conversation. We never really talked about it.
Yeah, I'll follow up with her and I'll have her get in touch with you. I mean, on the development order level, you're looking at compliance with the code.
Right.
And making sure they're not deviating. And so
Right.
I'll follow up with her and get the context, and then I'll ask her to give you a call.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
One more thing. I know that I think Mr. Snyder was the chairman during this time, but he's not on the planning commission anymore, right? So could we get someone from the planning commission, maybe the vice chair or someone, to show up to this meeting?
Yes, sir. I'll ask them to come.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I like that suggestion from the mayor, so.
Absolutely. And then Chris had one other comment.
So I know we discussed the sewer and the lift station, but also the water, when it was modeled, it is less than the required 1,000 gallons per minute for fire protection. So what you will be looking at Tuesday to approve has a dedicated fire service connection stub out for each unit. So it will be a sprinklered building. Once they apply for their building permits, they have the connection put in the water system now.
Thank you. Number 14, city attorney discussion of possible approval, approving an amount of $1,000 to be lien on property located at 1106 Wyoming Avenue.
Yes, sir. So this is a nuisance abatement. From talking to Ms. Myers, I think you guys haven't done a whole lot of these, but anytime that you do an actual cleanup of a property, what we do is we assess all the costs associated with that cleanup, and we have the commission approve that lien, which we then record in the official records. And if not paid, we use the assessment method that we're allowed to, to put that on the tax roll.
Any questions?
What does this have, like a lot of trash on it or something?
Sometimes it's debris, trash, yard a mess, all
Okay,
that stuff.
okay,
They get plenty of time to fix it, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Number 15, discussion of possible approval to award beautification grant, phase 2.
This was a DOT reimbursable grant we received last year, and bids came in, only 2 contractors submitted. The lowest bid came in at $119,800, and the next bid was $194,000.
And how much is the grant for?
The grant is for $151,000. So it came in under the grant amount. And this will be for putting additional landscaping at both entranceways, and then at Mosley Drive, at Mowat Road, and at 24th and 26th Street intersections.
Oh, nice.
It'll help tie all that color together.
But the grant will only get 119, won't get the whole 51, right?
That's right.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Any further questions? All right. And number 16, city attorney discussing, discussion regarding our policy number 96 for adopting or.
Yes, sir. It appears that you have a board policy that dictates how you do board appointments. I don't know if you've all had a chance to review that. Looks like it's a little bit past or before most of our times. But it dictates that, each board member gets a nomination for boards, and then that's approved with the consent of the commission. It's a perfectly good policy if it's what you want, and if it's not what you want, then obviously we can make changes to that policy.
All right, thank you. Open for discussion.
It made reference to a deputy clerk.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, and that's all, because we don't
Yeah,
have
I mean, we need to update it.
yeah. Sure, we can definitely.
It
get
also made reference to some kind of manual that the board members are given. Did you
When they-
read that?
Yeah, when they first get appointed, they get
Yeah.
a letter with, I guess, a manual on how
Yeah.
it works in the bylaws.
Do
Yes.
you still do that?
They do get the,
Okay.
if there are bylaws with that particular board, they do get those. And every year we have to send in and some of you may receive them, to the ethics board. If you serve on a board, your name is submitted to, the ethics board as well. And so we have to keep that list updated.
I don't know how all you feel. I have my opinions of what I would like to do with this. Obviously, it's almost 30 years, so I'm sure there's some updates that need to be made to it, and I'm sure it'll take a couple meetings before we can fine tune it. But I'd like to have it where whatever position we want to fill, we advertise it for X amount of days. And then, obviously, if it's a board of 5, then each one of us has some seat that correlates with us. So when that board member goes away, we the ones that nominate it, and then it gets voted on by the commission.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys
I
feel
mean,
about
that is kind of in the policy already, but it could definitely be worded better to be more explicitly say that.
Right, if it's a board of 5 now.
Yeah.
If it's not a board of 5, then I'm not sure how that works. Me personally, like to take the planning board, for instance, of 7. Me personally, you number them 1 through 7. And so seat 1 would have 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, and then seat 5 for the mayor. And then the other 2 I guess we just have discussion and vote on it like we did in the last one.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I feel. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
So like with the planning board, you're suggesting like 5 by appointment, and then, I mean, all of them would be by appointment, but 5 correlated to appointments from a commissioner, mayor, and then sort of 2 at large per se.
Right.
That would then go from there. Okay.
And this is probably a good one to discuss because I don't know the history on it, but I talked to like some of the other commissioners and mayors from other cities, and all the ones that I've talked to, they don't have a board of adjustment. And so I was like, that's interesting. And I said, so if you have variances, what do you do with it? And it all goes to the planning board. I remember when I was on the planning board, we very seldomly got together. I mean, it was like, I think only 2 meetings I've been to. I don't know if it's still like that or not. Yeah, do you know the history on it?
Maybe. Maybe 2 a year. We have had years when we've only had 1. We've had years when we might have 3, but very, very rare. Yeah, which is, good because that means most people are keeping to the codes.
Right, right. And I guess first, do you know the history of how it got started that way? I'm assuming that maybe at one time, maybe there was a lot of variances.
I have no idea it was like this when I arrived here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is if they're only getting together that often, is it really, and I'm just throwing it out there for discussion, is it really worthwhile to have that board?
The Board of Adjustments, which is interesting with the other cities, because the Board of Adjustments is a decision-making board. But if, they're not happy with that decision and they make an appeal, they do appeal to the commission. Whereas in some cities, it goes to like a court or something. The planning board is not a decision-making board. The planning board makes a recommendation. So I'm not sure how that would work with the variances because they would make a recommendation, I guess, to you guys.
So I know Panama City, when it goes to the planning board, that decision's final.
So they're a decision-making
I
board.
guess so. And I'm not sure how that works. But in Callaway, it goes to the planning board, but then it also goes to the commission. So I'm not sure how that works. And maybe the city attorney can
I
explain
mean, I
that.
think with the Board of Adjustments, we're speaking of community engagement and citizens being involved in city government, it still allows that where we're allowing more citizens to have input, insight, be involved in government as well. And to, dissolve that board would then mean that's less citizens that are engaged or and involved with the city as well. And to Amanda's point, I mean, you do have those different decision-making boards. So, for example, like, I can't remember the exact name of it, but the Contractors Construction Board.
Right.
So it would be similar to that where, they're a decision-making board, and then if there's an appeal, then it goes to that process for appeal.
Right.
So,
I don't know. If they're only getting together like maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, it starts making me question, is it really worth the time to have it the own board as opposed to the planning board? Because then, Amanda, you probably got to be there. Does the city attorney got to be there? Those things cost money, essentially.
There's also different requirements for a variance request. So we have to send letters out to people who live within a certain distance. There's different public noticing requirements. So other than the board, there are kind of different things that go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a charge.
Yes, and there's a charge. Yeah.
Right. So I just thought I'd throw it out there and see what you guys thought.
that's a good point. And I guess on the other end, if I look at if they're only meeting once or twice, and that means that that's as often as people are making those requests to be reviewed versus the planning board meeting more frequently because they do have, I guess, easier issues to handle per se. And there's primarily they're just there to review what we're going to look at and make a recommendation to us. Whereas with the Board of Adjustments, they are meeting because there is something that's critical that they must address. Right. So for our city, I guess that means that there's not as many variances and other things that are coming before.
They're following the rules.
Yeah,
Yes.
on a regular basis.
I'm assuming, and I'm just making an assumption here, but I would imagine back when they did it, and I don't know when it started, but I'm sure probably at one time, maybe there was a lot of variances and they're like, let's have it as a separate board, which probably made sense back then.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, can we make the planning board the decision-making of the board of variances or not? And it's not saying one way or the other, it's just something to think about.
City manager, could you all research to see when we established the Board of Adjustments?
No, sir.
Okay.
I mean, to Commissioner Warren's point, you can do that if you so choose.
Okay.
If we do that, then we need to
Want me to? or
we need to get very specific
Good job.
on how we select, like you were talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got to really fine tune that because we got to get to the point to where if they're making decisions, definitely want to make sure we're going through a process of voting who's in there, so.
And if we do the one where each seat has their own nomination, we need to know who that person is. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't know who that is right now.
Right.
There's a mention also in the older policy of a liaison. Is that a voting member?
Oh, you're talking about the school board one, right? Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was either.
Yeah. Never
That's a
had
good
one of
point.
any of the boards that have been established, and many of these boards, for instance, the Community Services Board was established in 2019, I know that, and that was kind of established by the commission, by vote on that particular board. The Board of Construction, that board was in effect and then reestablished, I think, in 2020 by the commission. And then code enforcement magistrate, that board has always been in place. Now, I do know when those happen, sometimes you do have a liaison there, and because it is a legal hearing. But other than that, I don't know of a liaison.
But they're not voting members.
They're not.
But I think that's the other thing is we need to list out all the boards in our policy.
Yeah.
So we know exactly.
Just for a simple fact of it makes it easier on us, or it'd make it easier on me. And I also I know that there's some that are appointed, some that are not. It seems to be the case, or is every single board the commissioners appoint some?
We vote on the members that are on that board, but we don't necessarily have as Commissioner Ward was pointing out, every board isn't connected to one of our seats.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
like
fair.
the beautification board isn't connected to
Right.
our
Yeah.
seats, but the application's made and we still approve it.
Right.
Usually it goes through the consent agenda,
Right.
we review it, we approve it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we still do all the appointments to the board, but just not
Right.
choosing the member that's not
Right.
necessarily be on that board according to our seat.
Kind of like when you did the debt review, what was the other ones? The charter review, those ones when
Yeah.
you first got in office, we each nominated a person.
Right.
And then we voted on it.
And I, one of the things you need to decide, because those are committees, those are considered, at any point, you can dissolve those if you want to, so those are committees, and then you have your official boards. So, I think that's one thing you need to decide on in terms of, differentiating between boards and committees.
Yeah,
Because the committees of where you'll choose the surtax committee, the finance committee, the charter review committee. Those are the committees that you have put in place that you choose those particular people, and then you go to the boards, which are the pension boards as well. You may choose, I think you have one person that's board appointed from the pension boards as well. So it's surely a difference of responsibilities and a difference of how those boards are managed, because the committees could be dissolved by any commission at any point.
Got it. Yeah, because those are continuing resolutions that we approve.
That is correct.
So the boards are like mandatory?
Once you establish a board,
It's chartered at that point.
Oh, so if we make any changes to it, it's going to have to be voted on by the residents? Then?
If it's in the charter,
Right.
or they're part of our charter, where it's like the debt review committee, finance review committee.
Right.
And we
Those are
create the
not-
resolutions, and then just each year or whenever it expires, and we just renew it. Same for the charter, same for the surtax, we just renew those each year. Because they're not included in our charter. Or when I say charter, just the entire document. Like the boards, you can go see those actually in the charter.
advisory
So if
boards.
you make any changes to them, then that's got to be voted on by the residents.
It might be smart to add in the policy something that points a review to the charter for those boards. When it describes the boards up top, you could just make a little note that says to see boards or whatever, see charter or whatever, just to, so that we don't have to have this conversation. We've had it once, but there's going to be future commissioners or mayors down the road.
No, that's good. One of the things I have thought about is, and Cole, you can helped me to see if this is even possible, is that we as commissioner or mayor actually be, I guess, not necessarily a part of a particular board or committee, but sort of the commissioner liaison, in the sense of attend the meeting and then possibly come back and just give us an update on, hey, this is what happened in this meeting. For example, I was on call for the Finance Review Committee meeting the other day. So then I can say, hey, this is what the Review Committee discussed as related to our stormwater. Of course, the city manager and others can do that as well. And so I have thought about that it might be one or two that we're part of, but that way we can actually know what's happening
Right.
quicker, in
Right.
regards to these boards, just to keep that communication going. So that is something that I've thought about. But I don't know if that's a conflict or not. You have any thoughts on that, Cole?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I've done it a few different ways. We've done it. The two ways I've seen it done is depending if you're standing up like an ad hoc committee, like a charter review committee, where you want it's got a finite mission and a finite time that is going to exist. Sometimes the commission will say, okay, we're going to appoint one member of the commission to serve as the chair of that commission. And then that commission member, kind of acts as the liaison, but also is a voting member on that board, because these are advisory boards; they don't have authority, so there's no conflict there. Now, the other way you can do it is as an ex officio member to sit in on that board meeting as a non-voting member. You can do that as well. I've done that. Sometimes we'll do advisory boards where we'll have, members of the Chamber of Commerce, or we'll have, representatives from different entities also serve as non-voting members to allow them to be liaisons to different agencies. So you can do it kind of as the non-voting member, or you can do it as a voting member. We can do it either way, depending on what you want to do.
My thought would be certainly as a non-voting member, because certainly don't want to have any influence from the commission as to how that committee or board votes.
Right.
And, would want us to be, I guess, as non-interfering as possible, even in the discussion. But certainly I was certainly think as a non-voting member. So nothing for us to decide today, just throwing a thought out there.
I agree on the non-voting.
That I thought about. All right, well, thank you, Cole, and then I'll talk more to the attorney. We'll follow back up on how that may look for us.
I also like Jamie's idea about advertising, because that serves two purposes. You get who's interested possibly, but it also informs the citizens of more of what's going on and,
Got it.
with the commission or with the committees. And
Okay.
I think we could just simply put it in the policy, say something like 2 weeks notice or something like that, and then there won't be any confusion. Everyone will know.
There's advertisement out there now for the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've had any bites off of that at all.
I think we've had,
And,
Had at
and
least-
to your point, what I will say is on the beach, what we do is we have an automatic 14-day advertisement, but we do give the commission the ability to waive that. So if there's a vacancy, we'll inform them and give them the opportunity to waive that. Let's say you have a member who is just up for reappointment, who wants to continue serving, what we do on the beach is we say, hey, so-and-so is up for a reappointment. Do you want to advertise that? Or would you like to, that person is willing to serve again, would you like to reappoint them? To give you the option one way or the other, but you can just do a mandatory 14 days.
I like that.
Yeah. Is everybody in agreement with what Cole just mentioned? So yeah, we like that. If you could note that for insert into this policy.
Yes, sir.
just so
And
you,
if I can address one other thing, I did just review your charter. Your charter requires a planning commission exist, but it does not necessarily dictate the powers or duties of that commission.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
with the current vacancies for the Board of Adjustments, it is currently being advertised, and it is open until the end of the month. We've had at least 3 people, I believe, apply. We've also got the lady who applied for the Planning Commission that we said could go on to the Board of Adjustments. So she thinks that she's going on to the Board of Adjustments. So what I kind of need guidance on is, because we do really have the 2 vacancies, but she was gonna fill 1. And so we were advertising really for just that 1 vacancy. But I don't know if you want us to put her in the packet as well, so that you're voting on the 2 now, but she already thinks she's going on. Does that make sense?
I think we kind of lined her up,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know.
So just bring for the 1 vacancy, just bring everybody who's applied, like the 3, or if there's another one, 4, bring them all in the packet to you, to make a decision on the ones after it closes.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Speaking of that kind of brings a thought for me is, I think in the future, if there's more than 1 applicant, we should just go ahead and put it on the regular agenda rather than the consent agenda. And then I talked to a few other cities, the way how they handle that, and I kind of like how they do it. So basically, what they do is basically have a ballot where each commissioner will write down the person that they want. They'll hand it to the city manager, and then the city manager will read the vote that way. It won't be anonymous. We'll say who voted for who, but that way you don't get like that pressure of like, well, this person already has 3 votes, so might as well just vote them in. You know, it kind of is more of like an election rather than like an official, like a commission vote. I just like that
I
technique
think that's
better.
how Panama City does.
Yeah.
It's like reality TV right there.
Right.
It's good either
Someone's
way.
getting voted on.
Anything else for discussion? Of course, we're going to continue to discuss this on Tuesday, in regards to the policy. Any other items for discussion?
I need to bring back, remember I asked y'all to kind of canvass the citizens to find out if they're interested in alcohol for private rental on city property.
The citizens
And-
I talked to said no.
Well, the citizens I talked to said no, but they're old. I mean, that's who I generally hang around, so I'm curious about the younger generation.
The younger generation is in favor of it, but but I don't want to just come up here and say go gung ho on it. If, the large majority says no, I want what the large majority wants. So, but yeah, I will say candidly, the younger generation is for it, but I realize that also there is a large senior community here in Lynn Haven as well. So I don't want to infringe on what they want either. I just want what everybody wants. And so if we can get a good consensus.
I think, I think everyone's concern is that you're going to have like, the concerts in the park or whatever, and then someone just gets hammered and they just fall over and pass out or something. And that's obviously not what we want. But I think with it's been a while since I looked at it, but I remember there was all these different caveats that you had to do this, and this. And my biggest thing that I had brought up was, I don't have a problem with it as long as we're protecting the city legally and the liability
If
of
it's
the
a
city.
private event, the city would require insurance to be
Right.
instated in.
Yeah, it would definitely have to
It's a
be.
big deal.
Yeah, it would have to be very, very
Because you're looking
stringent.
at dram shop insurance.
Well, basically what I'm asking is, do we proceed and put this on the agenda for discussion?
Sure. If that's what you want to do.
I
We've
want
done
it to
that
be
before.
consensus as to what we put on the agenda.
Got it. Anybody have a
I
problem?
don't, I don't mind it being put on the agenda to discuss so we get more public input.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So let's do it to appeal to the public. Not that we're gonna make a decision, is that, hey, we're bringing this as a point of
Yeah.
awareness and we wanna hear from you. So we can get more feedback from our citizens.
And can we make sure that we label it private event? It's not city sponsored
Yeah,
event.
definitely.
Make that
Definitely.
very, very
And the
clear.
city would require that they be additionally insured because the city doesn't wanna insure,
Right.
I'm sure.
It should not
So,
be on the
and
city.
and you gotta look into the feasibility for that, and you gotta set up guidelines,
Yes, sir, we
you
do.
know.
The odds of someone being able to do it is probably gonna be slim anyways, but Yeah. So I got, sorry, is that enough on that or?
I just wanted it to be agreeable by everyone
You
if
might
it's
have
placed on the
business
agenda
entities that
for
want to do
discussion.
it, and business entities that already have that kind of insurance can name someone also insured, because they can already have it built into their insurance to take it to different places.
Yeah,
But it's
Just a little-
definitely only for private
If I did
events.
anything, yep,
right.
Yeah, we did. I like what the city manager said. Maybe very quick, crystal clear that it's not the city putting it on.
Yeah.
For example, if you rented the garden club for a wedding, you could serve champagne.
Right.
Right.
Something like
Yeah, it's
that.
not to have like house
Not a free
parties.
for all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Checkers or anything like that.
right. One thing that I was thinking about is just so happens the way that the election is lining up is on the same night as a commission meeting. So you could potentially have results of the election coming in while we're having the meeting. That could be a bit distracting. Whether that's, we have one seat that has an incumbent, one seat that doesn't. And I believe Panama City has already decided to either change their time or to cancel it. So it might be something that we want to consider doing. Kind of want to hit it way before the election, so we don't have to make a decision today or anything, but just to put it on our minds.
No, that's a good point. I think we can decide at first meeting in April what we'll do.
Okay.
So we can all mull around, think about it, and I can follow up with the city manager, see what the calendar looks like if we want to move it to a different date. And it really depends on what would actually be on that agenda if we were to cancel it. For example, if someone has
Right.
a development order coming up,
Right.
we don't want to cancel it
Right.
from that perspective. But if it's a light agenda, then if it's just primarily discussion, then we could probably cancel it at that point.
Right.
So let's look at maybe
We had,
1st of April.
yes, and the city had kind of looked at that already and absolutely had thought about, to stay out of the way of the election. We were going to recommend to you guys, and you just got ahead of me, that Monday.
Monday instead of
Yes,
Tuesday.
yes, sir.
Okay.
But that's up to you.
I just have one quick thing. First Friday for Bay County Chamber of Commerce for April, and they asked all the candidates if they wanted to come out and speak, and then during the same time as our pre-commission meeting. So,
they always are.
Yeah.
so I was wondering if you guys had a problem if we started like an hour later.
I mean, we could just, depend on the agenda, not meet that day, and for those of us that are available, just go to First Friday.
Okay.
Because I have thought about every invitation we get to First Friday, we do have our pre-commission meeting. I'm not able to attend it, unless it's on like one of those odd Fridays where,
Right.
like a fifth week or something like that. So we could just not have that pre-commission meeting that day, and then for those that are able to attend First Friday, just be there. And if you can't attend, that's okay too. So that's my recommendation.
I have a question. The election is on April 24th,
22nd.
22nd.
You won't vote on the wrong day.
Don't confuse me.
Early
So,
voting is only a week,
just,
not 2 weeks.
That's
Early-
true.
Early voting was only a week before, not 2 weeks.
Right.
Found that out.
So my term ends on the 22nd, or does it not end
If it goes in the runoff, you'll be here till
You
May.
still,
Yeah,
If someone gets 50 plus 1, then that'll be your last meeting. Yes.
yeah. So your term doesn't fit. So if someone wins outright on the 22nd,
yeah,
you'll still be commissioner until the
Till the
next
next.
commission meeting,
Right.
yes.
which is in May.
which is in May. First week in May, you'll still be commissioner first week in May. Even if someone wins outright, you'll still be first commission. You'll be commissioner to the first week in May. And then we'll call the meeting to order. You'll still be on the panel, call the meeting to order. And then once they do the swearing in, then y'all will change seats at that point. Awesome. Wait, everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks.